Welcome to the Bipolar Buzz podcast, where we slice stigma surrounding mental illness one episode at a time, and we give others courage to do the same. I am your host, Lay, a wife, mom, daughter, sister, coworker, and friend who also lives with bipolar 1 disorder. So, without further ado, let's slay. Welcome to the Bipolar Buzz podcast. Today we've got Sydney joining us to share her experience with bipolar disorder and how it's just affected her life. So, Sydney, welcome to the podcast. I'm so happy to have you on.
Thank you for having me, Elena. I'm so happy to be a part of the Bipolar Buzz today. I'm excited.
Thank you. So let's jump into it. So we both have bipolar disorder, and of course, our listeners don't know, but we went to ultrasound school together. But what I wanted to start with asking you is, what is your bipolar type? Like, what is your diagnosis, and at what age did you receive that diagnosis?
I was diagnosed with bipolar 2 disorder, and I received my diagnosis at the age of 19.
19. Oh my goodness, that's so young.
It's
Because I
very
know, I'm
young.
pretty sure that, yeah, bipolar, I don't know the exact number, but I think it's like mid 20s is like the average age that people get diagnosed with bipolar. So that's interesting. You might be like the youngest person that I know of that who got that diagnosis that young. Like,
I didn't realize that.
yeah, most people I know anyway were, yeah, in their like mid 20s, like 24, 25, 26, somewhere in there. Not to say that it doesn't happen, obviously it does, but
Oh.
yeah.
Hmm.
So I guess what triggered you or what caused you to go and seek help? Was it something that you saw going on? Was it something that your family saw in you? Like, what prompted you to go seek help?
Honestly, I'm not even going to lie. At the time, I did not even want to receive help. If it wasn't for my mother noticing these abnormal, concerning behaviors in me, I would have never got the help that I needed. I think at the time, honestly, I was going through so much, I was trying to hide it. And I think that probably made things so bad that it had to be addressed.
Oh, I see. I see. Well, that's good that you had your mom. Like, it sounds like you had a good support and somebody who was like paying attention. Was your mom familiar with bipolar
Mhm.
disorder, or did she just know that something was wrong?
He knew something was wrong, but also my uncle, my mother's brother, he's also bipolar. So I think maybe some of the behaviors and the things that were going on with me probably, sent a signal in her mind like, hey, this is kind of reminding me of some things that my brother went through. And she knew that it was probably a good idea to get help and address it early on.
Yeah, exactly. And of course, we know that bipolar does run in family. So it makes sense that she would think, oh, I see these similarities between you and my brother. Like, maybe we should, go seek out help. So what did you have like an episode? Was there like a defining episode that you can recall that prompted that visit to go get help, or was it just kind of like a series of events?
It was one major episode. Originally, when I graduated high school, I went to school in Mississippi at Southern Miss. And at that time, I was staying on campus in the dorms. So it was my first time really being away from home and not having anyone kind of check in on me or oversee anything that I was doing. And at that time, I went from doing really well in school, and all of a sudden, there was a major shift that couldn't necessarily be explained. And I just fell into a terribly deep depression to a
Mhm.
point where I had a hard time functioning. And this was all of my peers, everyone could see it and notice it, but I didn't know what to do. Like, I went from always going to class, having A's, to being doing so terrible that I couldn't even leave my dorm room. I didn't go to class. I felt like everyone knew how I felt, and I just didn't want to be out around people. And my mom came to visit me, and when she saw me, she just knew I wasn't doing well by how I looked. And at the
Mhm.
time, it's like I had a hard time keeping up with laundry. I didn't leave my room to even go eat. So I had lost a lot of weight, and you could look at me and see like I was not okay. And once she saw me in that condition, she's like, "You need help." And that's when she took me to Pine Grove Behavioral Health in Mississippi. And I was taken in as an inpatient there. And that's where I received my diagnosis and inpatient treatment.
Wow. So, Sydney, as I heard you talking about that, like I literally had like chills because I can empathize with you so much. I was also in school when I had my first episode, my first like severe episode, I should say, because I think I had maybe some hypomania, but my first like full blown manic episode happened when I was in grad school. And like you, I was always excelling and doing so well, keeping up with, like the quick pace of school and then everything that I did outside of school. And then after I had my manic episode, I was also admitted to the hospital. I think this is probably where I messed up, but I went straight back into school after I got discharged. Like literally the day after I got discharged from the hospital, I was back in school. And shortly after that, I got super, super depressed. And like you, I could not get out of my bed. Like I couldn't go to class. And that was so unlike me. I wasn't even telling people like where I was. I just wasn't showing up, wasn't doing the work. And so eventually, of course, I had to withdraw and just start my life over. But I can relate so much to what you just said. And it's hard when, especially when you don't have a diagnosis yet. It's really hard to be able to identify like what is going on and why am I feeling this way. So I can't imagine, like, I had a diagnosis. It wasn't the right one at the time, but I mean I had something. So I can only imagine like what you were going through without one. um so have you always felt comfortable disclosing your diagnosis, or did that kind of come with time?
I would have to say that came with time, just because there is such a tough stigma when it comes to bipolar disorder and the way people just joke around with it and just use it so lightly. It's
Mm-hmm.
not something that I wanted to tell people because I never wanted people just don't have the correct idea, or I don't even think people fully understand what it is. So I wasn't comfortable with saying it unless I was probably very close with someone. But as time went on, I found that it was easier probably to just maybe let someone know kind of right away in case there was anything that I was doing. I just wanted the people that I was involved with to be aware
Mm-hmm.
so that they wouldn't take anything personal if sometimes I'm not feeling my best and I want to isolate. I didn't want people to take it the wrong way. And I thought it would be helpful for people to know at that point. But at first, no, it's not something I wanted to share or felt comfortable sharing.
That's how I was too. I don't think I was comfortable with my diagnosis myself because I had a lot of self stigma, and then of course, like you said, like other people, of course, kind of view it like, oh, you're crazy. I don't want to associate with you. So yeah, it's hard to disclose something like that. But I've never heard that before. Like what you said about disclosing so that other people are aware that, hey, my behavior doesn't necessarily have to do with you necessarily, but I have this mental health diagnosis or disorder, and this is an explanation for why I might be withdrawing from you or whatever the case might be. I do disclose, and as you said, like, I got comfortable with it as time went on, and now it's just I don't care. But one reason that I did start disclosing was for safety reasons, because I have like full blown manic episodes with psychosis, and so it can get pretty dangerous. And so, I didn't tell everybody when I first, found out about my diagnosis, but I felt like certain people did need to know, like, hey,
I have this diagnosis. If you see something off, that's what it is. You might want to take me to a hospital, I have a crisis plan now, but yeah, I can relate to that. I remember when we were in school, I don't think you were talking to me. I think I overheard you telling somebody else that you had bipolar disorder. And I was like, that is so brave of her. Because at that time, when we were
Oh.
in school, I was not ready to share my diagnosis. I was not
Mhm.
sharing at that time. So I thought that that was so brave of you to do that. I was like, she's cool. I like her.
Wow, I didn't even realize that, but at some point I'm like, hey, I'm gonna put it out there in case something isn't making sense to you. I want you to know that. And at that time during school, that was when I was on different medications. They were trying out different things. So it's like, I'm pretty sure I was experiencing some side effects too
Yeah.
that probably were affecting my behavior as well.
Yeah. Yeah, side effects are a real thing. I don't like it. I think I finally got a medication though. Well, I mean, it's been some time now, but it took a while to kind of, find what was going to work for me. The right medication cocktail, as they call it.
Mhm.
Yeah. Do you have any tips for people who maybe just received a diagnosis themselves, a bipolar diagnosis? Tips to like be more at peace with that? Because, like we said, it's kind of scary at first, and you don't really want to talk to people about it. But how do you yourself become more at peace with it?
For me, I would say I kind of dove deep into research and just trying to understand, what does this mean? What does this mean my life will look like after receiving this diagnosis? What should
Mm-hmm.
I do? What should I avoid? And I even got a little book. It's called Bipolar 101.
Hmm.
And basically, what I realized is routine. I need a good routine. And one of my major triggers, lack of sleep. Like, if I do not get enough sleep, it scares me. Like, I'm like, what's going to happen now? Because I've realized the pattern of what happens when I'm not taking care of myself. I'm not getting enough sleep. And I just started to pay closer attention to the things that I could control and that might make things better for me. So I try to ensure that I get enough sleep. I try to work out now. I pay attention to the foods that I eat. Try to drink enough water if possible. I try to manage my stress.
Mm-hmm.
And something that I wasn't doing back then when my episodes were worse, I wasn't talking to anybody. I didn't feel safe enough to share anything that I was going through because I felt crazy and alone, especially after receiving the diagnosis. But now I'm happy to talk about things before it gets to a point where I don't want to talk. I'm like, hey, I'm feeling this way. This is what's going on. And even recently, I have friends that also have bipolar disorder. So when I'm not feeling well, I'm happy to reach out to those friends that literally understand where I'm coming from and have felt and experienced the same thing. So I know that I'm not alone. And that just, it feels good to know that you're not alone when you're going through hard times.
Yes, that is really great advice. I think what you said about like the research was so important, especially in my journey too, like figuring out, okay, what does this mean? It's not what everybody really says it is. And then the part about having friends who also have the diagnosis. I have friends who've been through psychotic episodes like I have. And oh my gosh, like anytime we get together, it's like we can just share openly. And it's like, you get me, I get you.
Mhm.
Like, I don't have to be afraid to say, like, hey, I was delusional and hallucinating and all these things, and because they experienced it too. And it just, like, like you said, it makes you feel safe. And like, those are like your people. Like, they just get you on a different level, I guess. So we talked like a good bit about kind
Thank
of
you.
like the negative impacts or effects that bipolar can have on your life. Do you see any positives to having bipolar disorder, or is it all not good?
Absolutely. I would say there are positives. Like when I'm manic and I realize it, I'm like, okay, let's make the most of this. Like all this energy, what do we need to get done? Like when I tell you, I clean so hard in detail. I'm like, while you have this, let's go ahead and go hard and clean up everything. And I tend to be more creative. Like my ideas are
Hmm.
just flowing, and I love that. And also, like, I get talkative and I won't stop talking.
Yeah.
And I use that as my
I
time to
get
be
you.
social. I'm like, okay, now's the time to be with people. I'm like, let me just talk, talk, talk. And they want to listen now. Like, you won't have to try and pull the words out of me during that
Hmm.
time period.
That's how
So
I am too. Oh my gosh,
I
it's like I'm
enjoy
talking to
it then.
myself almost. I'm like, this is like so me. Like it's just like we can relate to each other. It's really
Yes.
cool.
It
So
is cool.
you talked a little bit about like kind of your self care, like making sure you get enough sleep and that you're eating right and that you go into the gym and all that. Is there any other part of kind of like your care or treatment plan that is kind of critical to your mental wellness?
I would say journaling is it's also been a big thing for me. And one of my therapists recommended it years ago when I started therapy. And I would say I've had the same journal for about 10 years now.
Oh
I
wow.
have a bad habit of only really writing in it when I'm going through so much. Sometimes I don't feel comfortable sharing it with someone and talking to anybody. I can go to my journal, and that's a good feeling to get it out on paper because then it's no longer in my head. I no longer feel bad about anything. And also, the good thing about journaling is I can go back after some time has passed and I'm reading my past experience. And sometimes I can pick up on my patterns. And then once I recognize and learn things about myself, it just helps me operate in a better way. So
Hmm.
I like that aspect of journaling. Just
I
learning more
appreciate
about myself that
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that because I like to write, but I don't like to I don't like to write my thoughts, I guess, because I guess I just
mhm,
don't want to face them. But I do like what you said because I do think it's important to recognize patterns. And like my thing when I used to journal, I would just kind of journal and then that would just be it. Like I never looked at it again. But that's interesting to me, like that you actually go back and read what you wrote so you can say like,
mhm.
oh, I kind of see that this was going on here, and maybe this is about to, just kind of identify patterns, like you said, in different signs and things like that. I think that's an interesting way to approach journaling. My husband and I were actually talking
It's
about picking up
very
journaling
helpful.
again, so maybe I'll try it,
Awesome.
but little by little, and then like
Mhm.
maybe reread it. I don't know what it is about me and like reading my thoughts, but it's just I don't know what it is. I probably need to talk to my therapist about that.
Let a lot of time go on. I don't know if you experience brain fog, but for me, like
Yeah.
I forget a lot. So when I write it down, it fills in the gaps of my memory because I'm like, whoa, like
Hmm.
this, I'm reading my life. And then it's like, okay, like it's not forgotten. At least I know my memories are stored somewhere on paper because that's one thing that I also have a hard time with. Sometimes people get upset with me because I genuinely don't remember certain things sometimes. And it's
Yeah.
not on purpose, but sometimes I'm like, I can't. And I found that writing things down, it helps a lot. Like just to remind myself, I enjoy that aspect of always going back to reflect and seeing like my version of the way I see things too.
Yeah, I like that too because my memory is awful. Ask anybody. And it's not because I'm not listening to you. It's really not like
Mhm.
I'm listening in the moment, but it's just, I guess, so many things kind of like rolling through my mind. And it's just hard to recall what you said 2 weeks ago, or something like
Exactly.
that. So that's important too. I think to, like you said, have those memories documented somewhere. Thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
I know we've talked or touched on this a little bit because you were talking about kind of having like your friends who also have bipolar disorder and how you kind of disclose your diagnosis to let them know, like if you're withdrawing, this might be why. Are there any other ways that you have found that your diagnosis has impacted your relationships? Not necessarily, it can be like friendships, romantic relationships, family relationships, anything.
I would sometimes say work relationships can be difficult to navigate sometimes just because I can be pretty particular. If I come into the workspace sometimes, I'll speak and say good morning, but if I don't want to carry on small talk with you, I don't want anyone to take that personal. So in the workspace, I might also disclose that just because it's like, hey, it's not because I don't care about how your weekend went. I might be going on in my mind about something that's happened with me personally. Like it might take
Yeah.
everything in me to be at work today, focused on doing my job. I can't also try and be interested in your life when I need to focus all that energy on doing what I'm supposed to do as
Yeah.
well. Romantic relationships, anyone that I'm dating, I always tell them about my diagnosis as well because sometimes it's like I might just get into my moods and I don't want anyone to think it's because of them. It could just be me. But if they have that understanding, then it can make things easier in
Yeah.
the relationship.
That's yeah, and I like that you're saying that, like helping people understand it. And I think a lot that also contributes to kind of like breaking the stigma surrounding mental illness too. Like it starts, in our own little circles and talking to people that we know and letting them know, like, hey, this is what it is. It's not necessarily what you've heard on TV or in the movies or wherever you've gotten your idea of what bipolar disorder or any mental illness looks like. But I think it is very important, like you said, to just kind of share that with people. And I think people get it. Like even people who don't have some sort of like a mental health disorder can relate to maybe not wanting to be bothered for whatever the reason might be, but maybe it's just a little bit heightened with, having bipolar disorder and having to kind of process a whole bunch of different things at once.
And
So,
sometimes I've had previous partners get upset with me sometimes, like during those depressive episodes where, you want to lay in bed more, you don't really want to get up, you don't want to go out and do much. It's not because I don't want to spend time with you, it's because of the way that I'm feeling. And I would say that's been hard too, because it's like, when someone makes you feel bad for those things, it's like I don't want to be like that, but
right.
I'm
It's not something
struggling
that's in your
myself.
control.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Definitely, it's definitely have to find somebody who understands or who is at least willing to learn, about your disorder and how it affects you and not take it so personally and be like so emotionally involved with it. Because I think a lot of people, like you said, they do kind of take it personally. It's like, oh well, you don't want to spend time with me. Like if you wanted to spend time with me, you could get out of bed.
Exactly.
And I think there is, because of course depression is a part of having bipolar disorder. It's part of the mood states that we experience. But I think that that kind of speaks to, like, at least what I've heard people say is like, oh, depression, like you can just snap out of it. You can just will yourself to be better and get up and do all these things. You just got to have the willpower. You just got to make yourself do it. And it's really not like that. It's honestly like a brain sickness, and people don't treat it like other illnesses, obviously, but it's just like any other. Like you wouldn't say that to somebody who had like a chronic health condition. Oh, just will yourself out of it. Like snap out of it. You'll be fine. You would tell them to
Exactly.
get treatment and take care of themselves and rest and all these things. You wouldn't say get over it.
That's so true.
Yeah. So I guess my final question that I will leave you with, or it's kind of like I guess it's a two-part question. Um, So, how do you identify with bipolar disorder? Do you describe yourself as someone living with bipolar disorder, or do you say I am bipolar?
Honestly, I never even thought about it
Hmm.
until you asked that question. And then that made me think deeply about it because initially I think what I say is like, I'm bipolar.
Hmm.
I have bipolar disorder. But now I think my attitude should be I'm a person living with bipolar disorder because today, at this time, I take the holistic approach to my treatment and I'm no longer on any medication.
Oh,
And
awesome.
thank you. I have my therapist, but I only have to schedule appointments when necessary. And it's been, wow, probably I would say at least 6 months since
That's
my last
amazing.
therapy session. So it's just something that I have to be cautious about each and every day with the decisions that I'm making. I have to pay attention to my feelings. I address everything instantly. I never let it get to a point to where I'm not okay. I notice the signals of when, like, hey, you're about to not be okay. And I address it before we get to that point of where I can't function. I've gone through the cycles enough to know when I need to take action. And now I just try to do everything, take all the steps necessary to maintain the balance. And so far, it's been working out.
That's awesome. Like, I'm so glad to hear that you've got it like managed and you got a good like care plan, like a good enough care plan that you don't have to rely on medications, and you're not that it's a bad thing to be on medication or that it's a bad thing to see your therapist, but it sounds
No,
like that's a win for you. Like, it's not something that you necessarily have to do because you've got your disorder under control. That's awesome.
exactly. And I will
Congratulations.
say, thank you. I was on medications for years and it definitely helped me. Like at the time, it was like a crutch. I was not in a place to where I could do it without medication. So I'm so grateful that there were medications available to me to get me to where I wanted to be today. And my therapist, they were all so great, but I would say I was in therapy for probably about 8 years.
Oh,
And
wow.
there was times when I started out, I had to go to therapy twice a week, two sessions a week. And then it would go from one session a week to one session every 2 weeks. So I gradually got to this place. It's not something that happens overnight.
Yeah, it sounds like you've really been working on yourself and really like taking your health and your mental wellness seriously, and that's very commendable. I don't think a lot of people really have the tools or the skills to do it, but it sounds like you've put in the work to be able to do that for yourself, and that's awesome.
Thank you. Yes,
You're welcome.
I love working on myself. Honestly, I kind of got a little obsessed. Maybe even it's like
Is there
we're
such a
gonna
thing?
get. I'm like, no, we need a. How can you be healthy? And I just became obsessed with like my mental health, my spiritual health, my emotional health, my physical health, and it's changed everything. And
I
I'm
think those are
grateful for
great. Like, health is a great thing to be obsessed with. I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
that's true.
Well, thank you, Sydney, for talking with me. This has been a great conversation. I've really enjoyed having you on.
I'm so glad that you welcomed me onto your podcast. I'm
Of
happy to
course.
discuss this. I think it's so important for people to just understand
Hmm.
what it's like to live with bipolar disorder. So I'm so glad that you have a platform to have conversations like this. I appreciate you.
Oh, thank you. And I appreciate that comment. That really makes me feel good because, like I said, like, it took me a long time to get here. I'm glad that I am where I am now, but it's like you said, it doesn't happen overnight.
I'm proud of you. Keep up
Thank
the
you.
great work with
Same to
everything.
you, Sid.
Thank
All right,
you.
everybody. Thank you for listening. I'm Lay, and that's the buzz.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Bipolar Buzz podcast, where we have the courage to slay stigma. If you like what you heard, be sure to subscribe for more and share with a friend.